When something is a function, there turns out that there is a convenient way of describing these functions. Well, it turns out we've created a convenient way of describing these functions. So we're going to use letters to name the functions. And the most common letter we use is F. And it's kind of like for algebra, we use X as variables. And for angles, you may or may not have seen it, but we often use a theta to show angles. And we use F to denote functions. And the way we write it is we write it like this. It could be any letter, but we tend to write it like this. And this is pronounced f of x. And for example, if I had this, that would be g of x. And it's not a multiplication. It's not f times x, even though it looks like it. It's a function of x, and g is a function of x. And what we're saying is that there's going to be, it's kind of like an input-output. Given x, there's going to be a value of the function f. Generally speaking, we've done this before. The f is essentially f of x is in many ways the same thing as y, right? So y and f of x are kind of the same thing. So let's discuss how we did it. So before, so we're going to have a before, let's make a table out of this, and after, before and after. So before, we used to say y equals 2x plus 5. Now we would say f of x is 2x plus 5. So here we're saying y is 2 times the value of x plus 5. Here we're saying a function of x, what we're going to do with x is we're going to double it and add 5. Or we could have said g of x was 2x plus 5, or k of x was 2x plus 5. And it would all be the same thing. So before, we would say when x equals 7, how do we write the equation over there? We would say, well, y equals 2 times 7 plus 5. But now, when x equals 7, the way we write it is we write it as f of 7. So that's a way of saying, what is the value of function when the x, so notice the x over here has become a 7. So when x is 7, what is f of 7? And so we would write f of 7 is 2 times 7 plus 5. So it's the same thing we've done before, it's just a different notation. So the solution, so before we might say that the solution was 2 times 7 is 14, 14 plus 5 is 19. So when x is 7, y is 19. Or we might say x is 7 and y is 19 is the solution. What we would say now is we would say f of 7 equals 19. So it's just another way of writing it. Now, it doesn't even have to be f of x. The input could be something different. So for example, we could say that h of t is, this is a very common one actually, negative 4.9 t squared plus 3t minus 17. For those in physics, that comes from gravitational acceleration. What we're saying is that h is a function of t. What this formula represents, as it turns out, is height is a function of time. So it's an object flying through the air. Or it doesn't even have to be anything real. It could be g of w is w times 3w minus 1. And then if I put in a number for w, it would be equal to that.